Hey, everyone. My name is Steve Hart. I'm the Vice Mayor, and right now I guess I'm acting as Chairman of the Growth Management Committee. It is 9 o'clock in the morning on July 21st. This is the Growth Management Committee, and the purpose of getting together today is to talk about a proposed amendment to a PUD that was approved in 2009. Madam, would you call the roll, please, Madam Clerk?
Absolutely. Vice Mayor Hart.
Here.
Miss Debbie Beals. Here. Miss Carrie Collins has informed us that she's going to be absent. Mr. David Hatch.
Here.
Miss Vivian Katz-James.
Here.
You have a quorum, though this is an advisory committee.
That's correct. We do have a quorum. The second thing or the first thing, I guess, on the agenda is the growth management introduction. I'll make some general comments as to why we're here, and then I'm going to ask each member of the panel to introduce themselves and tell you all a little bit about themselves and how they are very qualified to be sitting up here. The Growth Management Committee is a standing committee of the City Council. It has not met on a regular basis for a couple of years because we haven't had any matters that required anything other than council attention. We are simply an advisory panel. We do not make a decision in any way on what's going to be presented today. We will make a recommendation or recommendations to the Planning and Zoning Board at some future date. But this is sort of a get acquainted session just to find out what's happening and what is best for the city as far as long-term goals and what's, of course, best for the developer, because the developer has a huge stake in this. I'm going to start at my left, far left. Katz, can you introduce yourself and tell us what your interest in the city is?
Vivian Katz-James. I'm president of the Save Our Lakes organization. We have been working since 2009, basically to bring water back to the lakes. That is now happening with the Black Creek project. So I guess my 12-year tenure in the Save Our Lakes organization, doing what I can to bring water back to the lakes, which to me is the lifeblood of the community, qualifies me to be here. I have a great deal of interest and heart for this city and for this community. I have a degree in accounting, which has nothing to do with this, but I can add and subtract. So I think that's as good as I can go right now. So thank you.
I'm surrounded by two accountants, it seems. Debbie?
My name is Debbie Beals. I am a realtor here. I think that's probably what qualifies me here to be here. I moved here in 2014 with my parents had some issues with health, and so we moved down here. I lived in Jacksonville, Florida for almost 30 years. And when we moved down here to help with my parents, we really fell in love with this community. So I want to really see this community grow, but in a good way. I see that we've had lots of sales going through lately, but I really I love the real hometown feel about it, and I just can't seem to get enough of it. That's me in a nutshell.
My name is Steve Hart. I'm the Vice Mayor. I'm a retired attorney. I'm still an active member of the Florida Bar, though I'm not practicing. My background somewhat is in real estate. I did represent a developer or two along the way. I've been on the City Council now for, I think, 7 years. I'm into my third term, and I just have a very strong interest in seeing this community grow in a very good way without burdening the infrastructure.
My name is Keith Hatch. On the roll call, I'm called David, but my middle name's Keith. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. I was a practicing CPA up there, licensed and practiced up there as a CPA, and worked with several developers on their books. So I kind of understand the development side of things from a finance perspective. I am also an auditor. I'm a pastor. And I'm a realtor, so I have a great deal of understanding of the books. I've got an understanding of the real estate, and what interests me for this position, or why I'm so interested in looking after the growth here in Keystone Heights, is because I grew up in a small town. Small town is wonderful, a small town also has to grow, and it has to move with the rest of the world, slowly and very controlled. So I'm looking for an opportunity where we can add benefits to the community and grow without growing too quickly and causing risk.
Thank you. Item number 2 on the agenda is selection of a chair and a vice chair for this meeting and then future meetings unless we make a change. I will volunteer to be the chair because I'm the liaison from the city council. If someone else would like to be chair, speak up now. Forever hold your peace. I'm looking for a vice chair to volunteer to do that from this body. Is somebody willing to do
I'll
that?
volunteer.
Thank you, Keith. Item number 3, public comment. Do we have any public comment cards?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have one, Madam Karen Lake,
Karen?
Madam Mayor Karen Lake.
Good morning.
Good
I'm
morning.
here today to just watch and observe your process. I want to welcome you. I want to thank each and every one of you, I mean all individually. And it's fantastic that you're volunteering your time, your energy, and your talents to the city of Keystone Heights. So I look forward to your deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item number 4 is the application to amend a 2009-490, which I think is an ordinance number that was passed in 2009. Lynn, could you give us a little bit of background in that?
Absolutely. Back in
Thank you.
2009, the city was a recipient of an application for a PUD on the property off of Fox Run, adjacent to 21 behind the American Legion. You've seen the maps. The application was approved by both growth management and then planning and zoning. We have a developer that has come in and the property has switched hands, and they're wishing to amend this application as presented in as it was presented in 2009. In your packets, what I have in front of you that I've printed out was the application from 6, which is the justification report on, including the map set, the PUD layout plan, and the concept plans. I did not provide you a paper copy of things like the warranty deed and the rezoning application, things of that nature. It's not necessary for this time, but you do have that information in your packets virtually if you'd like. And so at that time, if I could, Mr. Chairman, I just want to take a moment to introduce who we have here at the table to answer any questions, as well as bring up the engineer on record for CHW for the proposed changes.
Please.
I do have Mr. Chad Richard with DMRP. He is our, DMRP is our newly appointed engineer. We have changed hands. We're very excited for this new relationship. Mr. Richard is our point man. He's my go-to. Mr. Richard, do you want to?
Sure, thank you very much. And here this morning as well as David Sile, he'll be serving as our assistants through this process. And so I'm obviously very happy to be here today.
Thank you.
And then also at the end, I do have Mr. Kenny Hall, our Public Works Director. He is in charge of maintenance and drainage and things of that nature that goes on during the city. So he'll be here to answer any questions as well. He is the liaison between engineers, both the developer and our engineer, as this process moves forward.
Thank you. As I mentioned before, we won't be making any determinations today. We may be making recommendations to planning and zoning, but we do want to keep this casual. It's not a court of law, or nobody's going to be cross-examined. We just want to get some information. Would the spokesman for the developer like to get up and tell us what we're doing?
Good morning, Craig Frazier with CHW. Yeah, really, the long and short of it, it's pretty simple. The previous approved PUD had a lot more attached residential units than we thought that the market could really bear. And so, the majority of what we're doing is converting a lot of the previously approved attached units to single family. Okay, all right, thanks. To single-family residential. So that's really it. We look forward to getting your feedback, and we'll answer any questions that you have. But that's kind of our approach.
All right, let's start with the pastor at the end. Keith?
Just general comments or general questions?
Either one.
Okay.
You may as well just stay at the microphone because we're going to be answering some questions. Thank you.
I guess the first thing that I want to ask, this isn't really about growth, but I did look at the entire package last night. And I looked at the warranty deed. The warranty deed had Lake area.
Is your mic on, Keith?
Oops, sorry. I looked at the whole package last night, and this really has nothing to do about growth, but I just heard the city mayor share that the property had changed hands, and I saw that lake area of Keystone Heights Limited Partnership is no longer active. Then I traced it down to a retirement account, or so Retirement Concepts LLC. And then I'm seeing Roberts Venture Capital. Who owns the property? Because the deed says lake area of Keystone Heights Limited Partnership.
Sure, the Roberts organization is who we're working for, who is in control of it. If there's any paperwork that we need to fill in the gaps, we will go through them to get that.
Just a suggestion as a
Sure.
realtor,
Yeah,
I would have that deed revised so it shows the proper ownership.
absolutely.
I mean,
And they may have that. Like I said, we were trying to track it down through what was publicly available through.
Yeah, it's
the-
not
May I
yeah.
just jump in? I'm sorry to interrupt. I did a similar search. It's an LLC that currently holds title, and I believe Jim Temple is
Yes.
the single
Yes.
owner of the
Yeah.
LLC. I know Jim personally. In fact, he built a house for us a couple of years ago.
all right.
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chairman, if I may, so on the application itself, Retirement Concepts LLC is the property of record. They have, and it's typical when we do these sorts of developments or applications, for them to have, list the register agent as the engineer, as those, is a realtor, there's, a state of, less of a better term, there's a state of limbo while it changes hands. So we
Right.
do have them as the agent on record.
Right, so my only suggestion is that the deed be changed to show Roberts Concept.
Absolutely.
So Retirement Concepts LLC is the owner. The other questions that I have, I was looking through, I looked through the 2099 proposal, then I looked through the current proposal. And I'm looking at, when I looked under the recreation facilities, it says there's 173 units will be in there. You're estimating 4 individuals per unit. A traditional family has 2 parents. And so you'll see where I'm going in just a minute. So I would assume that the other 2 are either children or adult dependents, elderly parents or somebody of that nature. Went back and looked at some research and looked at about 40% of dependents in homes today are elderly parents or older children. That leaves 60% of that number being children, which ends up being about 208 children, school-age children. We're sitting here talking about a petition for a new school, but we're going to be bringing in 208 new children. I looked at the prior plan, it said there's only going to be 40 children were estimated. I think there were 22 elementary school students, 7 junior high students, and 13 high school students. I'm not getting a fuzzy feeling right there.
All those numbers are based, and I'm surprised that the per unit number is so high. Usually it's about 2.6.
2.65.
Yeah, that's usually it. So I'm not sure if if that's a different number you were looking at, or if we had used a different source. But usually, Bieber, which is a University of Florida organization, is where we get our averages, and so
Okay.
that number should be 2.6.
Okay.
And then also the school generation numbers come from the school board.
Okay.
So that is also we are just working from
So
averages.
just a concern of
Sure.
mine is that we're looking at the population of our schools.
Sure. Everyone
I'm
is.
very concerned.
Everyone.
Especially with younger families, that child ratio is going to be higher.
And that is one of the things we hear most places that we work. Schools are all seem to be pushing capacity, and typically the school board capacity is handled on a county-wide level. So some of that is out of our hands.
I understand.
But yes,
totally
we understand, and we do.
And see, the reason I asked that
Sure.
is being from Virginia, working with developers, one large development that I worked on with a developer was a Riverbend Corporation. And they had a big development along the river. They had to develop and plan for a school because of the number of kids that they were introducing into the school system. So
Sure.
I just bring that up. Roads, when I looked at the roads, it talked about the entryways. Could you give me a little more understanding of what the entryway is going to look like on 21 and onto Commerce, because I think there's like 1,600 entries. Well, I think it was 800 and some ins and outs, so 1,600 traffic points there. I'm worried about safety there. I'm worried about traffic congestion there on 21, especially in the morning, if you have 800 cars going out for work.
I mean, we're looking at two lanes, either coming in, going out, and this is in the concept plan. We would
Yep.
obviously have to coordinate with FDOT. That is a state road.
Right.
We'll have to coordinate with FDOT on the final design of anything that goes there. But what we would like to see is 2 lanes out, 2 lanes in, full access intersection, and we're proposing a median intersection to make a nice entrance feature.
And that's for the development itself. What about the Florida highway? Have we talked to FDOT about
Not
the
in it.
traffic that's going to be there?
Not at length at this time. We've sent them a concept plan just to say, hey, do you have any initial feedback? We have not sat down, and then they did not have any detailed feedback at this time, but we'll get into that as we move on, because we'll have to do a traffic study.
Right,
And-
because the concern is the northbound side, the southbound side of 21.
Sure.
Because it's only a 2-lane road there. If somebody stopped there waiting for traffic, they're going to
Understood.
back up that southbound lane.
Yep.
Um,
And those are the details that we typically discuss with FDOT when we get to that point.
Okay. And a possible light there for safety. Has that been
There
discussed?
again, that's going to be an FDOT decision. Based on my past experience with them, this is not going to generate enough traffic for a light.
Gotcha.
I mean, we've had 2,000-3,000 home subdivisions where they just don't like to break the flow up of traffic on their roads unless it's absolutely necessary.
All right. And how about Commerce Road? Say in the study it said they were expecting 90% of the traffic to go out on 21.
Sure.
But if 800 cars are leaving somewhat between the times of 6 and 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to learn that there's a back entrance real quick. So I'm going to say there's going to be a 50-50 split there. And I'm going to go out the back entrance and find my way to 21 or either to 100.
And I think when we get into the traffic analysis, we can get into more detail about where and what that access would look like. But in the concept plan which we presented, we only have the one access on State Road 21.
So there's not going to be an access out on the
Like I
Commerce.
said, I think that we'll let the traffic analysis dictate that. If the traffic analysis shows that there needs to be some major improvement to that intersection up there due to the number of trips, and if we provide another access in order to better disperse that traffic and maybe limit the number of trips up there, thus limiting the improvements that we have to do, making it much more financially feasible, then we'll obviously look at that.
And I know it appears I'm asking some difficult questions. I love the concept. I'm a realtor. I
Sure.
want those homes in there. I want new faces in the community. I
Sure.
just want to look after their safety.
Absolutely.
Really, the last thing that I have is around the water usage. I also read that it's expected that about 53,000 gallons per day would be used from those, say from that facility or from those residents. Has anybody considered the impact to the lakes, or do we have a sufficient supply in our water treatment plants to support that? It said we did in 2009. It said we had 1,445 ERCs, equivalent resident connections
Right.
at that point. But does that still exist today?
I would look to your staff to see if they have any concern with that. But I would like to point out that it is, the way that we presented this and the numbers that we did, because we're offering a reduction in the number of units, the potential impact from what it was already approved at is being reduced.
Okay. But this was a reduced number. This came out of your new proposal.
Yeah. When you compare what we're proposing to what was previously approved, that's where the reduction comes. To the actual capacity for the number of units that would go in, I would look to your staff to see if they have any concern.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. So the original application in 2009 has a list of 204 homes. The application that you have in front of you today has a reduction to 180 dwellings. I will say that the process, and I apologize, I should have laid this out at the beginning, CHW is representing here today in front of you for the change of the zoning of it, the plan that was due for zoning. Once the zoning portion is approved, that does not warrant them the rights to construction. We still have to go through a development review committee, which will include that deeper look with FDOT, St. Johns River Water Management District, some of the infrastructure that's going to be in place. And so the first step in what they're doing today through planning and zoning is just amending the concept of the idea, the reduction of homes, and then the plan, the overall plan itself. Those conversations on what the impact is going to be to our area will be held later on once this is approved. It's not cost efficient for the applicant to go ahead and have those conversations with FDOT or St. Johns River Water Management District prior to knowing that this will be approved.
And we don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but we do want to see the overall concept.
Absolutely.
And I'll be addressing as well the traffic concerns that I have after the other members make their comments.
So Chairman, I only address these or throw these out there because I see these as part of growth.
Sure.
And I'm not challenging, I'm just throwing out to say, have we thought about?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so
That's why
where are
we look forward
So,
to the feedback.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Deborah? Turn your mic on.
Keith asked pretty much my questions. I was curious about especially the State Road 21.
Sure.
I know sometimes we even have issues on Gasline Road, cars coming in and out, especially, kind of coming up the hill. You don't see much until it's almost too late when they're on Gasline. So I was just curious of how that would work. But like you said, it was like FDOT.
Sure. And we will meet with them and any of your staff or consultants that want to be involved in that process. And the first thing we'll do is we'll work out a methodology for the study. So once the methodology is agreed upon, and FDOT will approve that because it's their road, then we'll actually perform the analysis, come back with the results. Based on the results, FDOT will say, well, we want you to add a turn lane, or we want you to add a lane, or a deceleration lane, or something, or an acceleration lane, something that in nature. And so then that's what we'll have to do moving forward.
Okay. And then again, it's the water. So
Okay.
thank you, Keith, for asking those questions.
Sorry about
No, you're good. I appreciate that. It gave me some more insight too. So,
So
that's all
there
that I
again,
have.
if there are any infrastructure improvements that are necessary to serve the water, that we'll determine that when we get into the engineering plans.
Was this public water, or was this going to be?
It would have to be at this density.
Yeah. Okay.
Water and sewer.
Correct.
Yeah. Vivian?
So, to make sure I understand this, as far as the changing of the zoning, we're simply looking at reducing the number of homes there?
Correct. That's the major change that we're asking for through this PUD, is to reduce the number, and we're changing them from attached, or in order to reduce the number, what we're looking to do is reduce the number of attached units and provide more traditional single family. And now we are maintaining a little bit of the attached product out on State Road 21, or closer to that end of the project.
I'm also looking at amenity center.
Mm-hmm.
Could I just ask what you have in mind there?
Clubhouse, pool type.
Okay. And do you have a general understanding of the price level of homes that you're looking at?
Oh, absolutely. That's out of our area of
So that's not- that's
expertise.
not
I
part of
have,
this at
yeah, I have, I mean, that'll be established, when they come to market,
Okay.
because what the value may be today may not be in 2 years when they actually are built and come to market. So that's a little bit of a moving target.
Well, I'm new to this. I may
Sure.
be asking a dumb question.
No,
Okay.
absolutely.
So are we actually looking at doing this? I mean, are we looking at building here pretty soon?
I would say, yeah, but I mean, I think the process itself has to play out. There's this process.
Right.
Then we'll come back, and I believe your process is the preliminary plan, construction plans,
Right.
and then final, and then plating. So all of that, getting through the process may take 9 months to a year.
Right.
And then, so we're at least that far away before there's any construction. Then the infrastructure goes in first. That could be,
Yeah.
you know, so I mean, we could be 2 years away
But
before
if
the
I-
first house.
If I may interrupt,
Yeah.
if I'm the company getting ready to build this, I pretty much know what I'm gonna build. Now, yes, it may be
I mean,
that
there-
that
there
I can,
again,
there'll be this price or that price.
They know
later
that
on.
they're probably building an 1,800 to 2,000 square
Yeah.
foot house,
Okay.
something like that, you
Yeah.
know? And I don't know what that product is. We don't build the end product. We represent them through the permitting and the engineering design
I would
process.
just assume if you're at this point that you would have a general idea. That's all I was asking.
Our clients do,
Yeah.
we don't.
Okay,
So-
I also would indicate a concern about 21.
Sure.
And I think it's directly across from the daycare center, if I'm seeing this right. So, when you're going back and looking at this seriously, I would hope to maybe figure out either something else or just know that that's gonna be an issue to be looking at pretty seriously. I would think almost anybody on this group would have a concern.
Sure.
Thank you.
I've got a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
I've lived in a community like this up in Jacksonville. And I guess one of the concerns, and again, I'm saying this not to direct at you, but just for thought as we go forward at looking at this downstream of the processes. There was a complex that we moved into that Beazer built or was building. And Beazer dropped out and Pulte came in. There's a lot of developments like this that start off and don't finish. And so I guess a concern is having a venture capitalist in this is that at any time you could pull the plug. And so my concern from a growth perspective is you get a halfway done project. What does that do to the home values and the values of the property surrounding it if nobody else is going to pick it up? So just food for thought as we go forward. I mean, that's all I'd like to mention.
I mean, from the developer's point of view, it's obviously not economically beneficial to stop halfway because all of your pro forma and all your numbers are based on build out. So I can promise you that's not the intent.
But it does happen.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Markets change, markets crash. I think we all saw that not too long ago.
So as a real estate agent, and I think Debbie will tend to agree with me, we are on a great high right now. To answer Vivian's question, it's kind of difficult to state a price right now because prices are just continually going up. And to say that it's, say they're worth $250,000 today, they might be worth $375,000 in 2 years. But at the same time, they could be worth $150,000.
Exactly.
Say if the bottom drops out, we've got various things in the market right now that could impact that.
I think my question was really more of, maybe I'm looking at square footage, that sort of thing, and I understand the market goes up and down and all of that, been there, done that. But, I was just concerned about what are we looking at here in today's world? Are we looking at, you know, if we're looking at 1,000 square foot house, that's, you know, I would be concerned about that at this point.
Well, yeah, there again, we can provide that information for what type of footprint and what type of models they have in mind as we go forward. But I would assume it's typically homes on this size lot nowadays are between 18 and 2,500 square feet.
And in Jacksonville, they're selling for about $275 to $350 right now at that size and that type, because I've got a couple folks over there we're looking at right now. But we're not Jacksonville, so.
All right.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. Debbie, did you have anything else?
I did. That was pretty much my concern is,
Sure.
you know, I don't want to have, you know, real low income to where we run into any kind of issues where we're gonna, you know, a family with another family and another family living in a
Right.
1,000 square foot home.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll have an HOA?
They typically do, yes.
Yeah.
And because the things like the amenity center and the stormwater and the common area will be maintained by the Property Owners Association.
Okay. Yeah, that was, so we're looking at 1,800 to 2,000 square.
That'd be my guess.
feet
I'll have to
about.
get you that specific information from our clients. There again, we don't do the homes. We just get them through the permitting for the site and the horizontal construction.
Right, and I don't, you know, mean to say, I mean, everyone deserves a home to be in and to live in a home. I think that's, you know, that's your American dream, is to own your own piece of property. I just worry about, you know, having too many in one area. Not that it makes a difference, but my concern is, you know, making sure that we have quality built homes and stuff in that area. I think that's something we desperately need, you know, and we need some good housing out here. So thank you.
Sure.
All right, let me dive in. Here again, this is not confrontational at all. As Keith mentioned, we're just here exchanging ideas. But there were a few things that sort of jumped out of the paperwork when I was reading it yesterday. And going back to the initial PUD description that the City Council approved in 2009, it says, in part, 2 points of ingress and egress will be provided. 1 point will be off State Road 21, which we've discussed, with right and left turn lanes onto the site, which you've discussed, and the other off Fox Run. And looking at your concept plan, it looks like the best access to Fox Run would be where you have a cul-de-sac. Am I reading that correctly?
That's correct, yeah.
All right. How difficult from an engineering standpoint would it be to eliminate the cul-de-sac and have direct access to Fox Run?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's completely possible.
Could be done.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would also offer that, depending on, you know, what the traffic study shows,
Right.
even and how this develops, if there's a tipping point in the number of units and the trips generated,
Right.
that, you know, that maybe this is a cul-de-sac
Yeah.
for some amount of time, but it's platted with right-of-way through, and then it can get opened up in the future at some point. I'm just saying that's an option. but-
I've only lived in Keystone for 16 years, and back when we first moved here, it was sort of like a quiet Mayberry. It's not like that anymore. The traffic, I don't know what the traffic counts will show, but it's really, in the last 2 or 3 years, especially with the RV park, and just general population shifting to this area, to my mind, traffic is now a major concern, whereas maybe 11 years ago or 12 years ago, it wasn't quite so critical. It's just a comment. I'm not
Sure.
asking for any feedback. Just a few things I want to mention. You're talking 180 housing units, and we agree, I think, around 2.6, 2.65. That's a population then of 477, and rounding it back to 450. Does that sound about right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and that's a population increase within the city of 30%. So it is significant, and that's why we're here. The definition of a single-family detached unit, can you help me with that? What do you mean by that?
That is your site-built, single-family home.
Okay. And then if you have an attached unit, I don't remember the terminology you used, are you talking duplexes and triplexes? Is
Or
that-
it could be townhomes.
Okay, or townhomes. You're not talking mobile homes at all?
No, this is a shared wall.
Okay,
So there, once again, site-built, shared wall,
gotcha.
either whether it be duplex, triplex, or a townhome.
Okay. As far as acreage, you're at 39, more or less. Are you still at about the same density, about 6 units per acre?
Yeah.
About that?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, yes, we didn't. we
Which
didn't
works out to about 7,200 square feet on average for the houses. And do you believe that you can meet the setback and side yard requirements of the city and still build 1,800 to 2,000 square foot homes?
Let's see, did we propose any setback standards on our plan? Oh, excuse me, yes, we did. We have proposed
Okay,
setback
okay.
standards.
I don't want to get too far in the weeds. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure this has been considered.
Sure, and if you look on the actual SUP or PUD plan, we do have the setbacks that we are proposing for both single-family residential, townhome, the attached product, and then for the common area
Okay.
and the amenities. So what we're proposing, we are comfortable with.
Okay. You've used the expression affordable housing. Would that tie into the townhomes and the duplexes?
Correct. I mean, typically, that's why we want to provide a variety
Sure.
of housing types, so that there is a range of prices available, so that you do offer, you know, quality homes and a quality product to a range of people in the community.
Could you give me just a shorthand definition of what you think affordable housing is?
Workforce housing,
Okay,
teachers, firemen,
Okay.
police officers.
all right.
I mean, workforce housing is probably a more accurate term. Affordable,
Sure.
meaning just a range of affordability.
Sure.
Not subsidized.
Yeah, but it would be to your development's advantage to have things be more, I guess, not upscale, but at least you won't have large variations between the best housing and say, the duplex housing.
Sure, but I mean, there would be a range.
It'd be a range.
Yeah, I mean, that's
And
the
the
point.
market would
Market,
establish
it will all be market driven.
that. Somewhere in your paperwork, I saw 3 lots represented. They're in the county, they're north of the proposed development. They're parcels 002-169, 1, 2. Do you have any interest in those, or does the developer have any interest in those?
What was, are these adjacent?
They're to the north.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if they've made contact with them. They may have reached out and people were not interested. I honestly don't
Yeah,
know.
well, that's not our business because it's in the county. However, if there is a traffic flow from that, and if it should turn out to be commercial, then of course that would put more strain on the one access point that you have. And it doesn't look like it's contiguous to the road. You'd probably have to acquire more land. But
Yeah,
that's-
yeah.
that's-
I don't, as far as I know,
That's-
I don't know. I'm not aware of any discussion.
That's a little far afield, but I
Sure.
just thought I would ask. I have no further comments. I echo Keith's sentiment that new people, new faces, new construction, as long as it's done in a reasonable way, will be good for the community. So we certainly are not anti-development up here. Any other questions?
I have a
Certainly.
comment that I want to
Vivian,
make when we're
certainly.
talking about affordable housing and low-income housing and housing in general. As I said before, I'm born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida, in a little area called Avondale. And I was driving through there recently, and one of the unique things about that area, Avondale, and many like it in Jacksonville, is I think most of it was developed right after World War II. And what you see is you might see a 3-story mansion that costs, a couple of million. But right next to it, you might see a 2-bedroom, 1-bath cottage. So to me, that's a neighborhood. You can be in there, pretty much if you're a workforce person or if you're a professional person. And so anytime, to me, if we're developing anything that, that we have to develop here in Keystone, that, to me, rather than, for example, targeting whether it's high level or low income, doesn't make a lot of sense. If you really want to be a blended community, you provide both in the same area. So anyway, that's.
I'd kind of like to add to that because the development that we lived in was Summerlin, and it was developed just about the time that the original proposal was being made here. And I looked at the sketches, the architectural sketches you had in the original, it's either in the original or the current, and it looked just like that. There were single-family homes with a garage where you could pull the car in, and then they had townhomes where there were like 5 of them in a block. And they were for your teachers, your new graduates, folks that were just getting out and getting started, or your workforce type folks. And the others were for the families that had, kids and things of that nature. It's a great concept. We loved that community. I say the community came together. There are a lot of challenges managing that community, and you've got to have the right folks managing it. And it's got to be the residents. And I know we're talking long term. I'm all for it. I just, again, concerned about the traffic and concerned about what's the impact to our schools. That's really my only concerns.
If there are no other comments, I think we're done with you, but I'd like to hear from our city engineer a bit.
Sure.
To get his perspective.
Absolutely.
Chad, would you like to pipe in?
Sure. So
please?
we obviously evaluated the package. At this point in time, there are a lot of considerations for the city to look through and to evaluate. However, the amendment as proposed is a less density. In 2009, it was something that the city did approve in nature in the schematic plan. There are some observations that we've made, and David may elect to elaborate on those. However, one of the observations is very similar to what the sentiments that was brought forward to you, is the traffic, is traffic counts. And to be honest with you, until we get updated data and coordination is done between CHW and FDOT, it's kind of a moot point. And so that new evaluation needs to occur, and then that information will drive whether or not additional recommendations or changes to the geometry of State Road 21 will need to happen. And so I think that all of your observations are accurate and something that need to be considered, but that really is at the next level in the procedure, and the city has a lot of opportunities to per se negotiate and make those considerations and ensure that the character of Keystone is protected, and ensure that the safety considerations for our road infrastructure is necessary, and then also to provide reasonable assurances that there is sufficient water supply and sewer infrastructure to handle this capacity. So those are our general observations. David, is there anything that you want to add to the discussion?
No, just one observation is that the lots are way more dense from a building area coverage. You know, the previous PUD was a 55 by 120 lot. This lot is a 40-foot wide frontage lot. No depth specified, but the coverage is 80, that's 85% versus 38%. So, which is indicative of the current market right now. No developer really wants to touch this old PUD from putting homes on those lots. So, so this reflects the current market. That's all I really want the board to understand, is that it's a much more densified development, which is the current trend. But from a unit perspective, it is definitely less dense. I encourage connectivity to adjacent parcels, not just the actual state road or the adjacent road. Connectivity to those undeveloped parcels to the north would probably be a good recommendation. But otherwise, at this point, there's nothing wrong with this plan as I see it.
Kenny, do you have any comments?
No, sir, not this time.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. I think our next step will be simply to discuss this amongst ourselves and then make a recommendation to planning and zoning, and then we will adjourn. I'll start. I like the concept. I like the fact that it's a little less dense. I am concerned about the infrastructure within the city. I'm concerned about the traffic, but as Keith pointed out, small towns do change. You can't really stand in the way of this. And basically, the developer already has our approval. We're just tweaking the plan to make it more up to date, as you've pointed out. So my recommendation, and I'll entertain a motion either way, would be to pass this on to planning and zoning with our recommendation for approval, as long as the issues that we've raised today are addressed properly, the major issue being the traffic count. So I'm looking for a motion.
I've got a question.
Certainly. Well, let's have the motion in a second, and then we'll discuss it.
I'll make a motion.
The motion is to recommend this to the Planning and Zoning Board. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's
Okay.
correct.
Is there a second? Thank you. Now, discussion.
Okay. I go back to what Chad stated, that there'll be an assessment of that traffic, that count. When does that take place? Does that take place after they've started the development and we're into it and we're locked in? And help me understand that.
No, sir, that's not the traditional approach at all. And so the FDOT driveway permit will be applied for and adhered to prior to construction.
Prior to construction?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
That's part of the next, I wouldn't say the absolute next phase, but it is in the near future, because it allows the development to secure their access and to ensure how the driveway will be arranged, and if there's any additional infrastructure increases to the existing State Road or to what the proposed connection will be at State Road 21 and other access points if necessary.
Thank you, thank you. Okay.
Any other discussion? There's a motion on the table. It's been seconded to pass this on to Planning and Zoning with our recommendation to approve it, but to raise the concerns that we've talked about today. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition? Unanimously passed. We are done. Thank you.